Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today, instead of making new text effect, I will be showing you how to audio sync. Whether you want to add stylized lyrics to a music video or make cool captions to your YouTube video intro, being able to audio sync to text animation made by Geometry Nodes should be useful. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, as soon as we get into Blender, we'll hop right into Geometry Nodes Layout. A to select all, X to delete. Shift A, add a mesh plane. Using numpad 7 and 5, going to top orthographic view. Click on New, delete group input, add a string input instead. For the audio files that I'm using, I'm saying this is not a test. So if you're using any kind of audio file, the string should be following that, right? So I'm gonna pass this row strings to curve and output. All right. I'm not gonna be using this spreadsheet, so I'm gonna create a little bit more real estate, like so. All right. So for audio syncing, I'm gonna make a simple animation to just illustrate. So what I'm gonna do is use a scale instance and input a scene time and index. I'm gonna subtract index from the seconds and turn on clamp, pass the result to scale, and also I'm gonna plug the pivot point into center as well. So if I were to run the animation, you can see a letter appears from nothing and it grows into its final scale, like so. Okay. Right. So next, what I'm gonna do is import the audio file. So I'm gonna expand this section and change it into video sequencer. Drag and drop the audio file, and using Control and middle mouse button, I'm just gonna zoom and pan and bring the audio file into view. Okay. And I'm gonna bring the audio file to the first frame. And the reason why I'm using the video sequencer is to view this waveform, so it's easier to use as a reference. And now I'm also gonna create a new window and change this into graph editor. Okay. As of right now, you can see these timeline for video sequencer and the graph editors moving around separately. So I'm just gonna lock them together by going to View and Sync Visible Range. And also for graph editor, I'm gonna go do the same thing. View, Sync Visible Range. Now if I were to move these around, they move around together. And if I were to close the side panel with N and close the left part of these two as well, now you can see it's completely matching perfectly, right? Right. Next, I'm gonna select the audio strip, go into View, and go into Range, and set frame range to strip. So now the start frame and the end frame is set to the audio length. Okay. Right. So we're prepared to do the work. So let me just run the animation right now. This is not a test. Okay. So as you can see, it's not in sync. Well, we didn't do anything, so it's not in sync. But the reason for it is because this scene time and this audio file, well, they're basically not in sync. So what I'm gonna do is delete the scene time, right? And instead I'm gonna bring out a group input and make it into an argument. And now opening up the side panel, I'm just gonna call this a time ref. The reason for it is because it used to be a scene time, and this is a scene time reference, which I'm just gonna control manually. Okay. So going back to frame 1, I'm gonna go to the time ref and change this to 0 and keyframe with I, like so. Okay. Going to the final frame, I'm gonna scrub through this time ref to the right, and as you can see, when I scrub right, the animation progresses, and I'm gonna find the last frame of this animation. Okay, so this is not a test, and for this I think the time reference should be 18, so I'm gonna just input 18 and keyframe as so. Okay. Right, go into the graph editor, click on T and change the interpolation type to linear. So right now it looks like this. Okay. So if I were to go back and run the animation, this is not a test. So it is closer because I just compress the time into this audio frame, but we can do a little bit better than that. So what I'm going to do is go through this animation and keyframe the important timestamps or the locations. Okay. So the first position that I want to keyframe is frame 1, obviously, but the next one is where the first word, this, is complete, where this S finishes growing. So I think it's a frame 24. I'm gonna keyframe right here, and the next keyframe that I'm looking for is a frame before I starts appearing. So I'm gonna keyframe right here, this frame 29. Okay. So is same thing. I'm gonna keyframe where S finishes growing. Next for N, right here, just before N starts appearing. Okay, not frame 64. A, just rinse and repeat for all the words. And test. Okay, so for this phrase, there should be a total of 10 keyframes. And now what I'm going to be doing is adjusting these keyframe positions so it matches the audio file. Okay, so right here, this is this. Right here is not a test. Okay, so I'm just going to move the keyframes around using G and X to constrain it to x-axis. You don't want it going up and down, so make sure you constrain it to the x-axis. I'm gonna change this right here. This is where this should end. Next, I'm gonna move this keyframe and this keyframe right here, right here. Okay, and for test here and here. All right, well, we're basically done. So let me go back and show you with animation and sound. This is not a test. This is not a test. All right, so as you can see, it's aligning perfectly, and yeah, so all I pretty much did was change the scene time and make it keyframeable variable, and just manually keyframe the position of words to where it matches the audio. This probably is the easiest way to do it. You can also try to control speed and do it that way, but like I said, this is probably the easiest solution, right? So going back, just to summarize, you have a animation that basically starts out by using a scene time as time reference, but if you replace it with a keyframeable variable, you can basically go through this process. So it doesn't have to be this simple animation. Any kind of animation, pretty much with scene time, can be audio synced like this. Okay. All right. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.